Clarksdale, Arizona in the middle of January. We're at the Clarksdale train station, boarding the train, and it is busy. I will tell you what, about 400 people to board the train at once, so get here at least 45 minutes to an hour early. That way you can get your food, because you got to get in that shack behind me, and you got to take it onto the train yourself. Made it to our train car, the Flagstaff. Look at that. Well, tickets, please.
It's going to be on the left side. The Verde Canyon Railroad really is spectacular. It lives up to the hype. For about 9 miles, we're going to have 1,000-foot red rock cliffs on the road.
After a short introduction from our steward, we examined our snacks provided by the railroad. Following the introduction, the entire train toasted to a grand adventure through the Verde Canyon, Arizona. The first major item pointed out was the giant slag heap piled up right next to the tracks. This came from a copper smelter that served the town of Jerome, Arizona. Back in the 1930s and 40s, dumping the molten slag was a local attraction. People would drive out at night to watch the glowing red hot liquid pour down the side of the pile, which was visible as far away as Sedona. Local legend says there is still a fortune in trace gold and copper trapped inside that pile. As you can tell, we made it out to the observation car, where we enjoyed the majority of our time looking around at all of the sights. With the cliffside to our left and the flatlands to the right, we searched out over the landscape for wildlife and points of interest. We had the option to sit inside, but we were too excited to miss anything without the window in our way. During the hot seasons, the train cars do have air conditioning. Today, we did not need it, and were perfectly comfortable standing out by the railing. Soon, we had a grand view of the river, which lasted for the good majority of the ride. Here we soaked in the sunshine and enjoyed rolling through the countryside. It was exciting to be going over all of the old bridges with their unique designs. Riding across the desert lands and seeing the gorgeous red mountains as backdrops added to the hype of this experience. Across the canyon, we could see campers out on the cliffs getting ready for their night under the stars. Further and further, the train clacked down the tracks, passing mile marker after mile marker. In total, the overall train ride is 40 miles in length. The typical excursion lasts 3.5 to 4 hours total. Running right alongside of a couple 100-foot cliffside with a decent drop-off was exhilarating. The views kept getting better the deeper we got into the actual canyon. Like every railroad, this one served a purpose. Not just transporting people, but to transport copper from the mining town of Jerome to Drake, Arizona, which connected to the national lines. This is where the materials could then be shipped globally. Way into the wilderness, there were houses, and Megan and I were shocked. The tour guide told us these were built here and passed down from generation to generation in the same families. One of the highlights was having a subject matter expert on board to point out all of the unique landmarks throughout the journey. There were crew members inside and outside each car for assistance with anything we needed. There were a few times we headed inside, but there were just too many beautiful things to see, so we kept ending back up outside on the open deck car. the springtime, the trees you see that are all dead will be full of blossoms, and you usually cannot see the river because of them. So if you want a more romantic train ride, I might suggest going in the springtime for the flower blossoms. The guide out on deck had our eyes constantly looking for cool landmarks. He even did some I Spy for us. In the cliffside above sat the magnificent Jay Leno facial side profile with the chiseled chin. One of the best things, in my opinion, about the journey was being right next to the river and seeing all of the green popping out against the red backdrop. The landmarks were not the only cool things to see on the ride. If you ride this rail, you will be going through a 734-foot long tunnel, blasted through solid limestone in 1911 using 22,000 pounds of dynamite. The thrill of the ride with the tunnel, bridges, river, towering red canyon walls on either side made this one of the more epic train rides we have done. Being able to witness the years of hard work, labor, landscapes, history, and a comfortable ride puts this on the top of our list for best experiences. By this point in the trip, hunger started to set in, so we headed back inside to dive into our snack boxes. These are a great healthy option to keep you fueled. Just a heads up, if you're planning your own trip, you can eat at the depot before you board, or opt for the onboard meal like we did. We were actually surprised by how much was in the snack tray, so keep that in mind when you're deciding whether to add the meal to your ticket. We finally reached our turnaround point at Perkinsville. While the crew disconnected the locomotives to prepare for the return trip, we really felt the shift in pace. This wasn't just a ranch, it was a true piece of living history. We stood there and looked up at the old water tower. It was a landmark for the railroad, but for movie fans it was iconic. It was featured in the 1962 epic, How the West Was Won. Dad, I knew how much you loved the film, so I made sure to capture this shot. We were standing in the exact same spot where they filmed those classic scenes decades ago. It felt so surreal that the same tracks that once hauled copper and cattle also served as a massive Hollywood backlot. After passing the beautiful pasture full of cattle, we crossed over the old steel bridge. This was originally built over the Gila River, but moved in 1936 to where it sits currently. As the sun was sinking deeper into the sky, it painted the canyons a much deeper red than they were before, casting shadows across the canyons. Standing on the outside train car, you can look straight up at the amazing rock formations towering above just a few meters from the track. If you are a photographer looking for an easy place to capture some cool shots of a hard-to-get-to canyon, the Verde Canyon train ride is the way to go. Not only is it great for that, but it is a unique way to treat yourself for a weekend trip. On board the train, they serve a selection of alcoholic and non-alcoholic drinks inside the lounge car if you were curious. As you saw earlier, we tried out the strawberry lemonade they served. There is seating outside if you need a place to relax, and the inside couches are incredible to sink into and stare out the window as the train clacks down the tracks. Before you know it, the train makes its way out of the canyon and onto the plateaus again. Here, the sights are just as breathtaking. You might notice some unique structures along the tracks, even well into January. That's the home of the magical Christmas journey. Every December, the railroad transforms this canyon into an elaborate North Pole village, complete with Santa's workshop and an elf-filled flight school. It's a massive production that turns these historic rails into a winter wonderland. A fun bit of railroad magic that becomes a Verde Canyon tradition. The train staff entertains the kids during those tours, and it brings the Christmas experience up a notch for the family. As the train got closer to the station, we ended up spending more time inside and relaxing and visiting with our new friends we met. Before you know it, the train station sneaks up and it's time to disembark from the train.
This train is beautiful. Thank you, Dale.
If you are able to spend the night close by the night before and the next night, I would suggest that if you are coming in from out of town. It is more enjoyable not having a long drive afterwards.
That was a blast.
It was. I enjoyed that.
Nice leisure time on the railroad.
Overall, it was an incredible experience, and we plan to come back to do it again in the future if time permits. Tell me what you thought of our journey in the comments below. Would you ever consider the ride yourself?